And now, making his way to the studio, came in a close second in the recent Pope election. It's Mike Smithgall.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mike Smithgall, the unelected mayor of Atheistville, and this is today's Mic Drop. Now, here's a question that trips up a lot of conversations between believers and skeptics. Does prayer work? Most atheists will tell you no. Most believers will tell you yes. And both sides end up talking past each other because they're not even defining work the same way. But here's the thing. Prayer does work, just not in the way that most believers think it does, and not for the reasons most atheists think it doesn't. Prayer doesn't move mountains, cure diseases, or bend the laws of physics. What it does do is provide a real sense of control, comfort, and connection for the person praying. That benefit is genuine, but it's psychological. It's not supernatural. Today, I want to make the case that understanding prayer this way doesn't diminish its value for those who practice it. If anything, it gives us a more honest foundation for talking about why humans have been praying for thousands of years and why they're probably going to keep doing it long after we figure out that nobody's listening. So let's start with something we can all agree on, the placebo effect. It's real. Give someone a sugar pill and tell them it's medicine, and a significant percentage will actually feel better. Their blood pressure might drop, their pain might decrease, their mood might improve. The pill didn't do anything, but their brain did. A prayer works the same way. When people pray for healing or comfort or strength, they often report feelings of feeling better afterward. And you know what? They probably do feel better. The stress hormones might decrease, their blood pressure might drop, their anxiety might ease. That's not fake. That's the human brain doing what human brains do when they believe that relief is coming. But here's where it gets interesting. Study after study of intercessory prayer, that's where other people pray for you when you're without your knowledge, show absolutely no effect beyond random chance. The largest and most vigorous study of this was published in an American Heart Journal in 2006. It followed 1,800 heart surgery patients. Now, some had people praying for them, some didn't, and some knew they were being prayed for. The results? No different in recovery rates between the groups that were prayed for versus the groups that weren't. And in fact, the group that knew they were being prayed for actually had slightly more complications, probably from performance anxiety. This tells us something crucial. Prayer's benefits come from the act of praying itself, not from any external intervention. It's the person doing the praying who experiences the relief, not the person being prayed for. That's textbook placebo effect. Real benefits from treatment that have no active ingredients. Now, when you strip away the supernatural language, prayer is essentially structured self-talk. Think about what happens when someone prays. They're rehearsing gratitude, they're confessing worries, or asking for strength, or they're working through problems out loud. They're taking the chaos of their internal thoughts and giving them structure and sequence and voice. Psychologists have known for decades that this kind of structured self-reflection changes both mood and motivation. That's why journaling works. It's why therapy works. And even while talking to a rubber duck helps programmers debug their code. The act of articulating our thoughts, whether to a deity, a therapist, or just to ourselves, forces our brains to organize, prioritize, and process information differently. Now, prayer adds a few extra psychological ingredients to this mix. There's the sense of speaking to a caring listener, which activates the same neural pathways as actual social support. There's the ritual of component, which provides predictability and a control in uncertain situations. And there's often a component of surrender, thy will be done, which can reduce the psychological burden of trying to control uncontrollable outcomes. Now, none of this requires a deity to be listening. Your brain doesn't care whether God exists when it's experiencing the benefits of structured reflection, ritual comfort, and psychological surrender. The relief is real regardless of the metaphysical truth claims. Now, here's where I need to pump the brakes on my relative generous take on prayer. While the psychological benefits are real, the danger comes when we mistake those benefits for evidence of supernatural intervention. When prayer is sold as a cure rather than comfort, it can become actively harmful. Now, we've all seen the headlines: parents who pray instead of seeking medical care for sick children, communities that rely on thoughts and prayers instead of policy solutions after tragedies, or individuals who abandon practical problem solving in favor of divine intervention. This isn't just misguided, it can be absolutely deadly. The comfort prayer provides can be a substitute for action rather than a supplement to it. When Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, thousands of people prayed for relief. That was understandable, even healthy as a coping mechanism. But what the city needed was better infrastructure, faster emergency response, and government that was competent. Prayer didn't provide any of those things. So this is where the phrase thoughts and prayers has become, it's almost a punchline in political discourse. It's not that thoughts and prayers are inherently worthless. They can provide a real comfort to those offering them. But when they're offered as a substitute for policy change, for medical case, or practical solutions, they become a way of avoiding responsibility while maintaining the illusion of helpfulness. That's the part that's always driven me a little crazy. Hey, a real quick pause. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you join the community here at Atheistville. We're building a space for honest conversation about faith, about doubt, reason. Subscribing is absolutely free, and it helps people find this discussion, and it keeps the project growing. And I want to ask you to do one more thing, if you don't mind. Leave a comment. I read every single comment, and whether I agree with you or disagree with you, I will respectfully respond to you, and I really appreciate it, and it shows the algorithm that this community is worth taking part of. So I really do appreciate it. All right, let's get back to it. Now, there's another angle to prayer's effectiveness that has nothing to do with divine intervention. Humans are essentially ritual-making machines. We're wired to find comfort in repetitive, rhythmic, predictable activities. Prayer ticks all those boxes. Most prayer traditions involve repetitive language, specific postures, particular times or locations, and rhythmic breathing, or speaking patterns even. Sound familiar? It should, because these are the exact same elements that make meditation, mindfulness practices, and even simple deep breathing exercises effective for reducing anxiety and stress. The Catholic Rosary is basically a counting meditation with religious imagery. Islamic prayer involves specific physical movements, timed intervals, and directed attention that mirrors mindfulness practices. Jewish prayer often includes rhythmic swaying and chanting, repetition that would be right at home in a secular meditation center. This isn't coincidental. Humans have independently discovered across cultures and centuries that certain types of rhythmic, repetitive focus activities calm the nervous system and provide psychological relief. We're just wrapped different theological explanations around the same underlying neurological processes. This is why secular meditation and mindfulness practices work just as well as prayer for reducing stress and improving mood and providing a sense of control. Same mechanisms, different stories about why they work. Now, prayer often happens in groups, and this adds another layer to the psychological benefits. Praying with others creates a sense of shared purpose, mutual support, and special connection. When people pray together, they're engaging in synchronized activities, something humans have been doing since they figured out how to dance around fires and chant in unison. We've all seen that. The synchronized group activity triggers the release of endorphins and creates what psychologists call collective effervescence. That feeling of being part of something larger than yourself. It's the same feeling you get at concerts, at political rallies, sporting events, where the crowd just moves as one. It can be very, very powerful. And the social aspect of prayer also provides another crucial psychological benefit. It signals to participants that their concerns are shared, their burdens are acknowledged, and they're not alone in their struggles. That's very powerful medicine for creatures as fundamentally social as humans. But again, none of this requires supernatural intervention. The benefits come from human connections, not divine presence. Community prayer works because community works, not because adding God to the equation amplifies human solidarity. So where does that leave us? Should atheists just dismiss prayer entirely as delusional thinking? I don't think so. Should believers continue claiming prayer has supernatural powers? I don't think that's helpful either. Instead, I think we can find a middle ground that acknowledges prayer's genuine psychological benefits while being honest about their natural origins. Prayer works in your head, not in heaven. It changes the prayer, not the world. And that's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot. For believers, this might mean thinking of prayer more as spiritual self-care than divine negotiation. For atheists, it might mean recognizing that humans have stumbled upon some genuinely helpful psychological practices, even if they've wrapped them in supernatural explanations. The key insight here is that we don't need to choose between dismissing prayer as worthless or accepting it as miraculous. We can acknowledge that humans have psychological and social needs that prayer addresses, while also being clear that it addresses them through natural rather than supernatural means. Prayer isn't magic. It's not meaningless either. It's a psychological tool that humans have developed to manage stress, process emotions, and maintain social bonds. The fact that it works through natural mechanisms rather than divine intervention doesn't make those benefits less real. It makes them more reliable. All right, that's my 2 cents. Unblessed and unfiltered. Agree or disagree? That's what I got for you today. Now, if this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe for more honest conversation about faith and reason, and share this with someone who might benefit from a different perspective on prayer. And don't forget to drop a comment. I read everyone, as I mentioned, and I'm always interested in your perspective. All right, until next time, take care, and remember that reason and compassion go a very long way.